Welcome to Tampa Home Talk with your host, native Tampa real estate girl, Katrina Madewell, a full-time, passionate, out-of-the-box thinker, love for home ownership kind of realtor with over 21 years of combined mortgage and real estate experience. Tune in every week at this time for expert advice on everything you need to know about home ownership, finance, maintaining great credit, building wealth, and making your everyday life better, and how you can be financially successful today and tomorrow. Remember, love where you live or let Katrina fix it. Now, here's your host of Tampa Home Talk, Katrina Madewell.
Welcome. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thank you so much for joining me today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce who our guest is and also let you know about the mission of the show. If you've never had a chance to catch Tampa Home Talk, the mission of our show here is to help you keep and maintain great credit, live within your means, and build wealth. We also love to talk about anything in and around the real estate space and the homeowner space. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest for today. His name is Charlie Hale, and he is with Elite Wine Cellars. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
Well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you. Now, it's interesting. I love to have specialized people like you on the show because then we get to step outside of that box a little bit and get into a little bit more of those intricate parts of home ownership. And so wine cellars, that is a fascinating topic. Can you give me an idea about some of the stuff that you do? And is it only wine cellars that you build, or do you do other stuff as well?
We only build wine cellars. We're in our second decade of doing this.
Wow, for 20 years you've been building wine cellars?
Yeah, 17 years.
Okay.
Coming up on 18, actually, but all we build is wine cellars. We build everything from just a very functional cellar all the way up to something that's highly functional and aesthetically beautiful that can classically display someone's collection of wines. Probably 85% of our business is residential. The other 15% would be what I would say commercial, restaurants, country clubs, done a couple of yacht clubs, retail wine outlets, and that sort of thing.
So what goes into actually building a wine cellar? And I guess before I even ask you that, what got you started building wine cellars?
I always tell people it was bad luck, but
it was bad luck.
Realistically, it was a great love of wine. I used to have a small winery years ago. And from that, it just sort of sprung into a natural evolution of things. Started doing some building really out of my garage, and then it just sort of grew from that. But your question as to what goes into building a good wine cellar.
Yeah, what goes into it? Like, where do you start? Walk me through the process.
It's a very good question. There are really three major components in building a sound wine cellar. The first is the space itself, the room that you're going to use. The build out of that space is critical to a successful cellar. It's not rocket science, but there are a few things about building that space that are counterintuitive to the way the rest of the home may be built. So doing that properly is important to alleviate any possibility of having moisture, water, mold, or mildew problems later on.
So what do you mean by that, Charlie? Can you go back and elaborate on a little bit more? Because I don't understand what you mean.
Sure. When we build out, or I work with a GC, general contractor, on building out the room, really, that's going to become the wine cellar, the key components that are extremely important are the vapor barrier and, of course, the insulation. What you're going to build is basically a cave in someone's home.
Oh, wow. That's a good analogy.
It's going to be cool and it's going to be damp. So the vapor barrier is probably the most critical part, because without the proper vapor barrier in the proper location within the walls and the ceiling, you'll get moisture building up in the room or inside the walls, and you get mold and mildew. So the vapor barrier goes actually opposite of the way that you would put a vapor barrier on every other room in the house. Think of air as being like me, very lazy. So you have a room that you're going to cool to about 55 degrees. The air on the other side of the walls, depending on what it backs up to, if it backs up to an exterior wall, that air outside could be 90 degrees. The air in your house is maybe 70 or 72 degrees. Well, the two things that you know about air is the hotter it is, the more moisture it holds.
When we have a lot of that humidity and moisture here in Florida.
Exactly. And also it's very active. So inside the cellar, you've got air that's at 55 degrees, and it's just kicked back, relaxing, taking life easy. The air that's outside at 90 degrees is running around because it's molecules are highly active, and it's full of moisture. And if you can think of it, it looks in there and says, wow, look at the air in there. It's just kicked back, taking life easy. I want to go in there. Well, quite frankly, I don't care if the air comes in, we just cool it. However, it holds a lot of water because it's hot. So what happens is, if it starts to permeate the wall to come in, the cold from the inside of the cellar is permeating going out. They meet somewhere inside that wall. The hot air begins to cool. Once it starts to cool, it can no longer hold the moisture. So what's it do? It drops that water inside the wall. So if you don't get the vapor barrier to prevent that, you end up with getting water inside your wall, which eventually turns to mold and mildew and all kinds of nasty problems.
Oh, yeah. We just did a show recently on commercial defects in a home, and right along the lines of what you're talking about here. You know, I have an interesting question, because I know a lot of times you probably build, wine cellars in some higher-end homes or state homes. I would say probably $500,000 and up is your ideal customer. But what about if you have somebody that's a wine connoisseur, smaller house, and maybe they're just looking for the right space to put in just a small little wine cellar? Where do people usually put that? Like, do they convert different spaces? Do they build it in from scratch? Like, where would you see that?
Exactly. Remember I said 85% of my business is residential, probably 70%, that's going to be a rough estimate. I don't really know off the top of my head. I would say 70% of it is new construction. So we're starting with the design, the plan, the actual construction. The other 30% is remodeling, I'd call it. And that's where we go in and we may help them identify a space. Sometimes I'll have someone call and say, my son's gone to college. I'm taking his bedroom and making a wine cellar. Okay, that's easy.
Yeah, so they convert a whole room into a wine cellar.
Right. So if they have a room that they can convert, great. Sometimes, it's like you say, they're saying, I really want this. I don't know where to put it. And we'll come look at spaces. We may find an area that we can frame out and make a room out of. We may find a large closet that we can convert, or take two closets and make them together. I mean, there are ways to find spaces.
That's what I was thinking, because I've seen homes before. I know that I've walked in, Charlie, and I think it was probably meant to be like two pantries, and it looked like maybe someone had added that or customized it. It looked really nice.
Exactly. So, I won't say always, but 99% of the time, we can find a space. The question then becomes, are they willing to give it up from whatever they were using?
I would think a common space would be like a closet or something near the kitchen or a wet bar, right? Wouldn't that be functional?
A closet would be. You brought up another interesting topic, kitchens. If it's a room near a kitchen that I can convert, that's great. I'm always I won't say arguing, that's probably an unfair word. I'm always discussing with builders because they have this tendency. They have a little space left over in the kitchen, so they throw in some wine racking. Mm-hmm. And the kitchen is the worst place in the world to store wine. It seems convenient, but as far as storing wine, it's a terrible location for it.
Why is that? Why is the kitchen a bad place to store it?
You get too much temperature variation. Oh. You have the room at, I don't know, whatever you keep your house at, 70 degrees, 72. But then you turn on the stove, you turn on the oven so it heats up. Then you turn it off, it cools back down.
So if the kitchen's the worst place to put it, where's the best place to put it?
Well, when I say worst place, like I say, if you can confine that space, if you have a closet or a room or something that adjoins the kitchen and you can confine it and separate it from the kitchen, that's fine. But what happens is, wine is like anything else. When it heats up, it expands. Well, when it expands, if you ever look at a bottle of wine, at the very end of it, there's a small area of air, which is there to help the wine continue to mature and grow. It's still a living product, even though it's bottled. Well, when it expands, it pushes that air out. When it contracts, it sucks in fresh air. The only problem with that, I won't say the only problem, but the biggest problem with that is that fresh air is full of bacteria. And so now you've just introduced a whole new array of bacteria in your wine that you didn't want there, and it'll go south very quickly. Okay. So keeping it in an area that is a constant temperature, the ideal temperature for storing wine is 55 degrees. However, I have people say, well, I'm going to keep mine at 58 degrees.
So how do you keep that room cool, Charlie? Like, how do you keep it a constant 55 degrees?
That's the second part of the process. After we've identified the space,
all right. Well, hold that thought, Charlie, because unfortunately, I think I asked you that question going right into a commercial break, which I'm so guilty of. I do all the time. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. We have joining us today Charlie Hale, and he is with Elite Wine Cellars, and our topic today is Wouldn't It Be Nice? And when we come back, we're going to talk about the finish that process in your wine cellar. Back in just a moment.
Hi, this is Aaron Davis, owner of Hillsborough Title. Hillsborough Title is a local, family-owned title agency here in Tampa Bay. Our service, strength, and knowledge make us different. We've served Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. From Polk County to the Gulf, Pasco to Manatee, Tampa Bay, we've got you covered. Call us at 813-712-8888, 712-8888, or visit us on the web at thebesttitle.com, thebesttitle.com. That's thebesttitle.com.
I'm Katrina Madewell with Keller Williams Realty and Tampa Home Talk, and for more than 23 years, we have been helping homeowners sell. Flexible terms with the rate to sell it yourself. Let my results speak.
They were able to get us a full price offer and a contract in our house in 9 days.
I just wanted to express my gratitude in finding a cash buyer for my property in less than 24 hours.
I'm not bragging. I'm applying for a job. I want to be your realtor. Call 813-777-1196. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Money Talk at 1010 AM, 103.1 FM, and 99.5 FM HD2. This is Station Manager Charlie Oakes. If you have any suggestions or would like to do your own show, give me a call on my private line, 727-563-8821. Your suggestions have brought more local programming and the new FM signal. If you have an idea for a local show and would like to be part of Money Talk, call me. Money Talk is a family, and you have a vote in what the family does. Thanks for listening. 1010 AM, 103.1 FM, and 99.5 FM HD2.
You're listening to the best show on the radio. Best show ever.
Let's start right here.
You're listening to the best show ever.
Outdoor show ever.
You're listening to the best outdoor show ever. You're listening to the best outdoor show ever. It's the Big and Wild Outdoors with my dad, Braden Gunn, and Mr. Glenn.
7 to 10 Saturday mornings right here on Money Talk 1010.
Welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. And we're talking earlier in the show with Charlie Hale. He's with Elite Wine Cellars, and I was asking him, what is the process to actually put in a wine cellar in your home? And we actually were getting into the second part of that, and I had asked him, how do you keep the wine cellar the ideal temperature of 55 degrees? And so what's the answer to that question, Charlie?
Well, what you use is refrigeration. So once we've determined the space and we've determined how we're going to build it out, then the next part of the process is getting ready to refrigerate it. We don't use air conditioning. Air conditioning dries the air. You use refrigerations because you want the humidity in the room. So once we know the space, find it, we look at what's around the space, what's above the space, what's below the space, and we do what we call a heat gain to determine the proper size refrigeration unit that'll bring that room to an ideal temperature of 55 degrees and maintain that temperature, throughout the life of the system. Also, we'll look at the humidity requirements, and if necessary, allow for adjusting those up or down as may be needed. So we'll do a heat gain, determine the proper size refrigeration unit, which is very important because if you undersize it, then you will never get it to the right temperature. However, if you oversize it, you'll introduce way too much humidity in the room, and you end up getting moisture and dampness in the room.
Which that's just like your house. I mean, there's a lot to be said. It has to be the exact size refrigeration as well. And so when you say refrigeration for the wine cellar, just to be clear, is this pretty much like a refrigerator actually in the, like, what does that look like? How do you put a refrigeration system in a cellar?
You have several options. Probably the most common is we use a split system. Think of like your central air, okay? You'll have a very small condensing unit that'll sit outside, like your compressors for your air conditioning. Only it'll be a lot smaller than most. Then you'll have a very small air handler that'll sit somewhere like in the garage with your other air handlers for your AC. From that, you'll have ductwork that'll go to the cellar with supplies and then a return, just like your AC, only it's not air conditioning, it's refrigeration.
Oh, okay.
Now, the other thing that we use will be what we call a split system that is ductless. And in that case, you still have the outside condenser, but what you have now is mounted on the wall inside the cellar is a very small evaporator, which acts as the air handler, and it does the same process. It brings in the air, cools it through the coils, takes out air, takes it back outside, dispenses the heat. So,
and I was looking at some of your pictures here online, and you can't see any of the stuff that you're talking about.
No, usually we try to hide it so it's not visible. It's not ugly. I mean, if you do a ducted system, you're going to have just vents like you have in your ceiling for your AC. If you use a ductless system, as I say, you're going to have an evaporator. But what we try to do is put those sometimes in the racking, sometimes above a door, somewhere where they're not obtrusive.
Yeah, I like how they're concealed. It's pretty cool because, again, I'm looking at these. People can find you. What's your website? Is it EliteWineCellars.com?
It is, yes.
Okay. And you're on Facebook and across the web, I would imagine?
I'm everywhere.
And so can you give me an idea, like, what's some of the smallest wine cellars you built? Like, how many bottles does it hold? And what's some of the largest, most elaborate ones you built?
The smallest wine cellar I ever built was for 80 bottles. But they were 80 bottles that had a value of close to $1 million. So even though it didn't hold many bottles, it held a lot of value.
A lot of really expensive bottles.
Yeah. The largest one I ever built held about 8,500 bottles. And it had a lot of elaborate, had actually comprised of several rooms altogether, but several adjoining rooms that it was large and spread out and so on.
Now, it's quite a process, I imagine, to build a wine cellar. Just listening to you answer this question, how much can someone expect to spend? Like, from the small little $80 wine cellar that you built, which is probably pretty simple enough to just, hold some high value wine, to the big elaborate wine cellar that held 8,500 bottles of wine. What's the range in cost in those? And they're obviously two very different types of cellars.
There are, and that's a tough question to answer because you get into a lot of variables. You get into what type of material do we want to use. Obviously, if I build something out of cherry or teak wood, it's going to be more expensive than if I build it out of redwood.
Of course.
But
can you give me an idea? Like let's say someone's extremely frugal on a budget. They just want a nice wine cellar they can put in their house to store a few bottles of expensive wine, store a few extra bottles of wine. Maybe they don't even need 80 bottles of wine. But let's say if it's just a simple little small wine cellar, roughly what could someone build that for if on the smaller end?
You're probably if you refrigerate that space out, you're probably looking at somewhere between $15,000 and $18,000.
Okay, and then when you get into the bigger, more elaborate ones, obviously it depends on the wood. What's the most expensive one you've ever built?
Just about $250,000.
Wow. So, I mean, some of these wine cellars, it's interesting. Now, and just a curious thought, because this is the real estate agent in me thinking about this. Any idea, obviously a whole lot goes into how to cool that and keep it in order to maintain that 55 degrees. Have you seen anybody repurpose these rooms into anything else once they're set up the way they're set up?
I never have. I've had people that have added all kinds of things to them. I had one lady that bought a home that had a wine cellar in it. In fact, I had built a wine cellar. They gave her my name. They loved the wine cellar, but she wanted to know if there was a way that I could add some closet space so she could store her fur coats in there.
With the wine?
Yeah. because it was a good temperature for storing fur coats. She said, I don't really know. I've had people keep cheese in them. But repurposing them,
we've seen some wild stuff, which is just kind of why I was asking that.
Yeah, you could take out the racking, cut off the refrigeration and have a room back, Yeah. But it's not going to be air conditioned.
So the other thing I would love to talk about is you guys at Elite Wine Cellars, you also offer kit options for the DIY people. So can you talk about the kit option? What is a DIY wine cellar?
Well, they can be quite nice. Normally what we do, if someone is on a very limited budget or has a very small space or whatever, and is willing to accept the fact that not everything that we can do in custom will be available in a kit form, then if they give me the space, I can lay out a kit design, which will look, quite nice, depending on the amount of space and what they want to spend on it. If they approve that, then we'll simply ship them the kits. They assemble it and attach it. They're good to go.
But what does something like that cost? Again, going back to the simple little wine cellar.
It could be, again, depending on the size, it could be $1,500, $2,000, $3,500, $4,000. It really just depends on,
So you really do have something for every single budget, it sounds like. Like if you want a wine cellar of some sort, you're going to have something for them.
Absolutely.
I love that. So in the DIY kits, does it also include the refrigeration?
It does not.
Okay. So, and can that be purchased separately or installed separately?
Sure.
Or
Absolutely. We can again, I'm happy to do the heat gain calculations, figure out the size of the unit, build it, ship it to them. They can have a local HVAC company, install that and fire it up.
And what does that add or change to the just to buy that refrigeration system? What does that change the cost?
Depending on the size of the unit, most refrigeration systems are probably going to be between $3,000 and $5,000.
Gotcha. Okay, so really, you could build something super affordable in your house. I love this.
Sure.
I love this.
Yeah,
and what's something that someone should consider before they put a wine cellar in their home?
Well, the questions that I usually ask people, besides the things I want to know when I sit down and meet with a client for the first time, obviously, is what his vision is. I want to know how many bottles he has currently and what he expects to grow into. I don't want to build a 600-bottle cellar for somebody because he has 600 bottles, then he goes buys another bottle.
Gotcha.
What do with it,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what style, what size of bottles he has. Does he have magnums? Because if he does, that changes how I'm going to lay out the room, the amount of space I've got to dedicate for that. Does he have splits, half bottles? Does he have a lot more Pinots and Merlots because those bottle shapes are different, the base is bigger? So just getting a feel for what you've got. And then the other thing is, where you're going to put it, how you want it to look. I try not to give people my opinions, but I try not to force my opinions on them. It's their home, it's their cellar. I'll build it any way they want it. But I do try to guide them through the process of making good decisions and what should be in there or what they may not really need in there.
And I imagine the planning process is just as important as the building process. Charlie Hale with Elite Wine Cellars, thank you so much for your time today. It was absolutely my pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I loved it, and I appreciate your interest.
Absolutely, and we will be sure to share your information on all of our social feeds, including on our Facebook page and across the web with Elite Wine Cellars. And if you want to reach me or my off-air, or my guest, my off-air number is 813-377-2775. Again, my off-air number to reach me or Charlie is 813-377-2775. We would love to connect you guys. Call or text 813-377-2775. Back in just a minute.
Traffic and weather are next. If someone else's dog bit you and caused serious injury, call the trial attorneys at Papa & Gipe, a personal injury law firm, at 727-461-HELP. That's 727-461-4357, or log on to papaandgipe.com. I-275 northbound, that accident at 4th Street North has been cleared. Moving, then it slows down. Usual Howard Franklin traffic as you head into Tampa. Slow and go from the hump to just about West Shore. The Gandy Bridge, which was used as an alternate for those people avoiding the I-275 earlier, that's starting to thin out as well. It's a little slow and go heading into South Tampa this morning. This report brought to you by Indeed.com. Are you hiring? Join the over 3 million businesses that use Indeed.com. Post your next job opening on the world's #1 job site, Indeed.com. Today's weather, mostly sunny. It's going to be warm, high 86. Partly cloudy overnight, low 62. Currently 68 in St. Pete, 65 in Tampa. I'm Rick Russo on Money Talk, AM 1010.
The traffic survey results are in for this year, and Tampa remains in a tie with San Diego and Atlanta for 13th in the U.S. We're down from 84th in the world to 99th. Number 1 in the world is Mexico City. Last year it was Istanbul. Can you imagine what that traffic must be like? Join Pat George's Traffic Rangers and call him or Mark Charles with traffic problems at 888-404-1010. You can make a difference on Money Talk, 1010 AM and on FM at 103.1. Call us, 888-404-1010.
Eric's IRS troubles were nasty.
I had 10 years of unpaid tax returns. I owed $83,000. I might have wound up in jail.
And unbelievably complex.
Things that are written in the tax code are so complicated that if you don't pay a tax professional to do your taxes, you're going to screw up. This was such a complex problem, I did not think anybody could solve it.
Eric's whole life was about to go down the drain, so he called Optima Tax Relief.
Optima was able to make sense out of a huge disaster, and Optima stopped it.
To say the least, Eric was very relieved.
They got me out of hot water, that's for sure. Optima saved me a boatload of money and got me out of a horribly complex situation. If not for Optima, I might be in jail right now.
Got a nasty, confusing tax problem? Do what Eric did and call Optima right now for a free consultation. Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Well, let me tell you something right now. Commercial, yeah. They want a commercial van.
NV200s, NV2500s,
NV3500s, electronic package.
High tops, low tops, NVs, all the NVs, folks. Cruise, okay? That's a cruise for two upon the, what is it called?
It's the Navigator of the Seas. I'm taking 3,600 people.
That's Royal Caribbean's top-of-the-line cruise ship, okay? Not only that, you're going to receive the electronics package, which is...
Okay,
laptop, computer,
flat screen
a
drone,
a sound bar. Okay, not either or, both.
1 year maintenance package free with every Nissan, folks. Folks, nowhere in the world can you go buy a Nissan where you're going to get all this stuff.
Nowhere in the world.
$3,000 worth of throw-ins, kisses, whatever you want to call it, Pinellas.
NissanofClearwater.com. NissanofClearwater.com, folks. Versas, Sentras, Frontiers, NVs. It's all here. It's all huge, and it's all now. Right here in the month of April.
There's one word that describes your experience right here at Facilio Nissan. It's going to be huge. I mean huge.
What if you took time out for you? Just an hour of your week for a little mental tune-up. How you face the challenges of the day always depends on your mindset. Mindset Matters with your hosts, Dr. Gina Midyet and Roxanne Wilder. Airs today at noon on Money Talk 1010 AM and 103.1 FM. Dr. Gina is here to take your calls and share practical tips for self-improvement and finding your most authentic voice. Today at noon on Money Talk 1010 AM and 103.1 FM. Tune in to Mindset Matters, because it does.
Welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk. Thanks so much for sticking with us through the break. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. And for the last part of our show, we have some new guests joining in to the conversation. And today's topic of the show is, wouldn't it be nice? And we're talking all about those quirky little beautiful products, from wine cellars to what you can make from the wine barrels. And so without further ado, I'd love to introduce our next guest for the show. We have Joshua Sands and Stephanie Marr, and they are with Jinju Products. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about Jinju Products. What is Jinju Products exactly?
So we make wine, or anything basically decor-wise and furnishing-wise, out of wine and whiskey barrels.
So give me an idea. What's some of the coolest stuff you've made to the simplest stuff you've made?
Coffee tables. We currently just finished up a little mini bar for somebody, and then on the simple side, we do guitar racks, peace signs for wall decor, coat racks.
Nice.
And really, I guess the possibilities are unlimited.
So,
and we also make the serving trays out of the barrel heads, and we can also make the Lazy Susan trays.
Nice.
And one of our main bestseller is the bar stools.
Oh, yeah, bar stools.
Okay. We know somebody actually looking for bar stools, so we'll have to connect you. So give me an idea, where does the Jinju wine barrels come from? Like, what is that?
All of our wine barrels come from Barnett Vineyards in St. Helena, California. We actually have some friends out there, so they help us. They help us out in that area.
Nice.
And the whiskey barrels, they come straight from the Jack Daniel's distillery. We have yet to get other whiskey barrels other than the Jack Daniel's.
So are these actually stamped with the Jack Daniel's logo and stuff?
Yes.
Wow.
And they're very fresh when they come in. The barrels are still wet and they still smell like whiskey.
Does it take a while for the whiskey odor to subside a little bit?
Yeah, but as long as you don't do anything to it, you can kind of always smell it.
Gotcha. Now, are these expensive to have shipped? I mean, I would imagine they're pretty heavy, aren't they?
Yeah, they're roughly like 120 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Give or take. So
now, do you guys ship them or you go pick them up?
The whiskey barrels we pick up, and then the wine ones we definitely have shipped.
Now, what's the deal with the wine things? Like, is there a reason why the wine vineyards do not reuse them?
That I'm not sure, because from what we've heard from a lot of people out there is if they're overstocked on them, once they've used them, some of them even break them down and use them for firewood.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, we only want to use the wine barrels one time.
Oh, okay.
And then, so the wineries out in Napa Valley, they are always looking for people to pick up their barrels, and if you actually live in Napa, they'll sell them to you for like $20.
Wow.
But fortunately, we don't live in California, so
so you could have paid to have them shipped and moved around.
Yeah, it's basically the cost of shipping that that we pay for.
So Lisa's popping up some really cool stuff on the screen. Like, I mean, literally everything from lighting. So I'm looking at a light made from, I think, one of these wine barrels. To coffee tables. I mean, looking at a little chalkboard. I mean, you guys have gotten pretty creative on some of these things that you make with the wine barrels. Who's the creative one? Is that Stephanie?
Well, we both inspire one another in many, many ways, but we share ideas with each other. We always ask for one another's opinions on different products, and we kind of just spark our imaginations and talents off one another. So I wouldn't say it's just one or the other of us, but Josh teaches me a lot on, how to actually build the products and use all the big tools, and which is really fun in our workshop. But I love doing the painting and the staining as well, and sanding, and so and it's really fun when we get the custom orders from our customers, because from that point, like there was a customer recently that asked if we could build a fishing pole holder.
A fishing pole holder,
okay. A wall decor. So we were like, let's put our ideas together, and we actually made it happen, and we've sold a few of those as well. So it's really fun when we get the custom orders, because it continues, our imaginations and creativity to build new products.
So some of the cool things I'm seeing on your website, and go ahead and give out your website so people can check you out.
It's www.jinjuproduct.com.
Okay, and no S, right? Jinju Product, JINJUN Product.com?
Yes.
All right, we'll share that also over on our Facebook page and on Tampa Home Talk and stuff. But I'm looking at like some of the stools that you guys have made, and some of like the outdoor chairs that would go like in front of the water, in front of the fire pit, and they're pretty cool looking.
Yeah, I mean, those are one of our most popular products. We've had a decent amount of interest locally too. I mean, we sell a lot of our stuff online too, but over Christmas time, those were definitely that's what kept us busy.
Yeah, and our Etsy website as well is it's good for people to go to.
I can imagine on Etsy, you guys probably do really well there. So I have to ask, the guitar racks that you guys make, how much do those run? Because, my husband, Lisa's husband, they both play guitar, so I think they'll both shoot me if I don't ask you that question.
I believe they range from like 65 to
about 89.
89, depending on how many racks you actually have, from like a single to a three holder.
That's so cool.
And if you would like the metal barrel hoop to be added to the guitar rack as well,
it's an option on the site. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that yet. I'm going to keep tooling around here and see what I can see.
And just keep in mind, our current website, we're just changing website, so we don't have everything up on our website.
Our Etsy website is www.jinjupearl.etsy.com, and that has the most updated products.
And keep in mind, Stephanie, that's kind of a lot of information because a lot of our people are in and out of the car. They catch a segment or two here and there. So we'll definitely share that with our Tampa Home Talk listeners. Just pop on over to Twitter at Tampa Home Talk or on our Facebook page. We'll share those links that Stephanie's talking about. Roughly, how long does it take you guys to craft some of these products? I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, obviously, the smaller and the simpler the item, it's probably a little bit less time, but give me an idea what it takes to handcraft some of these items.
I mean, it can range anywhere from, half hour to like 6 hours or so. Usually, like the coffee tables will take a little bit more time. The bar stools are roughly 3 to 4 hours per stool. Some of the smaller items, it's usually under an hour.
And with the range in products, I mean, I imagine you can get pretty elaborate on some of these. What's one of the most elaborate things you've built?
I'm not sure what you consider elaborate, but...
I mean, what's one of the most expensive things you sold? What was it?
I mean, if you're considering price-wise, we've done like, I think 12 bar stools at once. But... I mean, the coffee table at this point is probably, I guess you could say, the most elaborate.
Okay.
The top of the coffee table, Josh created it so that you could lift the top up. And we used the half of the Jack Daniel's whiskey barrel, and then that was the bottom, like
the base
of the table. And then the top of the table, we went shopping and found some really neat places to get barnwood.
Yeah, it was like 100-year-old barnwood for the top of it.
Yeah, so we treated it and got it all prepared, and that was the top of the coffee table, which also lifted up so you could store items inside of the table.
I could see somebody tying all this in with the barn doors that are ever so popular right now, just kind of making that whole decor look really cool. What are some of the neat things you guys do with the rings that come around the edges? Because I know I've seen them in some of the different products.
I mean, we have a lot of stuff that we have that we're still working on because, there's a ton of stuff you can do with them.
Yeah, the chandelier lighting is one of the main ones that we're in the process of working on with the barrel rings or hoops. And then we use them as well, like we mentioned, for the guitar rack, just as like an additional piece of beauty.
And they're part of like the Lazy Susan. Looks like they tie on the bottom of some of the bar stools. Is that right?
Yeah, the bar stools, we actually have to cut them and then reattach them to make them smaller.
The peace signs.
Peace signs is really the outer frame of the peace sign.
Now, whose idea was that? That's super cute.
Actually, I think it was my mom that was out in Napa. She actually saw something similar to it and, sent us a picture of it, and she said she wanted it. So we made it, and actually it's been pretty popular.
Now, how do you... I know I see this all the time, and I'm pretty crafty, but I've never been exposed to it, so I don't really know. I mean, these come in kind of like the wood look, but then you actually finish some of these with the paint, so it has a little bit of that different, like, distressed, whitewashed, or there's color kind of look in there. What's the process to do that?
Well, we've kind of tried out a few different options on making it look more distressed or like birchwood, and so we've used bleach even, and we've actually stripped and sanded some of the spades from the barrel, and then we've laid them in bleach for about 10 minutes, and that turns out really nice. And then we've also just used different types of stain. One is called a sunburst.
Kind of gives it a whitewash look.
Yeah, and that's also another option, but it's just all about what the customer likes best with the different colors and the different.
And part of the reason we experimented with that was because we have somebody that wanted something that looked more beachy, since we're in Florida,
right?
And some of the decor here, so that was the main reason we kind of started looking at doing that.
It's kind of cool too, because a lot of the stuff on here is super custom. So like you guys can pretty much engrave anything on there. It'd make a really nice wedding present if you wanted to put someone's last name on there and the date they were married. I mean, these are just really unique, beautiful gifts.
Thank you.
I mean, it's super, super creative. So you're listening to Tampa Home Talk. It's about that time where you have to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to give you some information on how to order some of these products or get some information from them. If you got any questions, we'd love to take those too, 888-404-1010. And our off-air number here, where you can call or text, is 813-377-2775. And again, you can call or text me if you'd like information on home ownership, home selling, or to connect with any of our guests. That number is 813-377-2775, 813-377-2775. Back in just a moment. Let's face it, having a criminal arrest record really stinks, and it hurts when others make unfair judgments about you. Employers, landlords, lenders, even the person you may want to date. Take down this number, 813-254-9205. Attorney Jim Souza has sealed and expunged arrest records for more than 20 years. Go to restoremyname.net or call 813-254-9205. Are you looking for your next home? The truth is that most buyers want a home, not a real estate agent. I understand, but factually, you need an experienced agent on your team like me. I'm Katrina Madewell with Keller Williams Realty, host of Tampa Home Talk, and I've been in the real estate and mortgage industry selling homes for more than 23 years, and it would be our pleasure to help you find your next home. Love where you live, or I'll fix it. Welcome home. 813-936-2302. 813-936-2302.
The average commute to work in Tampa Bay's traffic is about an hour a day. Get stuck on a bridge or any major highway because of an accident or construction, and you can double it. Money Talk at 1010 a.m. or on FM at 103.1 has help with reports from Pat George and Mark Charles. 888-404-1010 with Money Talk Traffic Ranger info. 888-404-1010. Hear Tampa Bay's best traffic on Money Talk at 1010 a.m. or on FM at 103.1. Call us 888-404-1010.
Thanks for joining us on Money Talk. 1010 on the AM dial, 103.1 on the FM dial, and 99.5 FM HD2. HD radio is an additional way to listen on the FM dial. Check your owner's manual. You may have an HD capable radio and not even know it. Hear Money Talk on 1010 AM, 103.1 FM, and 99.5 FM HD2. Check out your owner's manual. It's not satellite radio, it's HD radio. If you got it, try us at 99.5 HD2.
Here's a recipe for some fun. Take 2 microphones and a telephone. Then mix in a redneck like Q105's Mason Dixon and a former Army sergeant and radio guy like Charlie Oakes. Put them on the radio every day at 11 a.m. Turn them loose, then open up the phone lines to add spice with your comments. The result is an entertaining hour on Mason Dixon Wide Open with the Sarge. You can be part of the show every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. till noon on Money Talk 1010. Your toll-free number to call in is 888-404-1010. They'll be talking about whatever's on their minds and your mind. And with these two, you never know where that'll take them. No subject is going to be out of bounds. Just keep it clean. The subjects go from political talk to what's happening in Tampa Bay. And they love anything with wheels and an engine, so cars will always be a subject. Listen to Money Talk 1010 every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. for Mason Dixon Wide Open with the Sarge on Money Talk 1010.
Welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk. Thank you so much for sticking with us through the break. And if you're just now catching the show, we have had a great show today. And the topic of today's show is Wouldn't It Be Nice? And we're talking all about some of those custom wood products that you can get in your home, from wine cellars to custom whiskey and wine barrels and all sorts of stuff in between. The neat stuff that I like about you guys, and we're joining today here with Joshua Sands and Stephanie Marr, and they're with Jinju Products and a lot of custom stuff. You guys do a lot of stuff on Etsy. And I noticed there's a little bit of a difference. For example, the whiskey barrel product seems to be a little bit more expensive than some of the wine barrel stuff. Why is that?
Well, whiskey barrels are generally just more high demand. I think most whiskey barrels can have a life of up to like 20 years. So after the distillery uses them, they're, usually sent over to either like Scotland for, Scotch, or to breweries, like microbreweries for, brewing beer, or at least for like the final process of brewing beer.
So they have a super long life, it sounds like.
Yeah, they're in pretty high demand, so that kind of, generally tells you that the price is going to be higher. In Napa, they have tons of barrels out there. They're looking to get rid of them.
And they only use the wine barrels one time at most vineyards. So
isn't that funny? It's so interesting. The other thing that's really cool, too, that I've noticed about you guys is you have some stuff, but, how likely is it that you sell the same thing, or kind of all your products pretty much like a special order? They're all slightly a little bit different kind of product?
Well, are you asking if there's certain products we sell more than others, or?
Yeah, like are there certain things that you kind of have ready that sell all the time? Because I know that you guys welcome custom order stuff, and you love to be creative and kind of figure something out that's specialized for like an idea someone has. And I like that, because it sounds like, if someone were to build, I don't know, a Jack Daniel's coffee table, for example, you probably wouldn't have two that look alike. They probably would look slightly different.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think the only things that we do that are like exactly the same are really like the guitar racks, and even the serving trays. We don't make anything until we get an order, because there might be something custom that goes on it.
Yeah, and the bar stools, they can be customized as well on height preference, as well as if someone wants a different colored or darker or lighter stain, or just leaving it as is. We've had one customer here locally in Florida that he ordered 4 for his wine cellar, and he wanted the bar stools just to be left as is. Like he wanted it as original as possible.
Basically no finish, just natural look.
So what's one of the most creative things you guys have done? Like, what's the one-of-a-kind, super quirky, off-the-cuff, orders that you guys have filled? Probably from Etsy. That's where a lot of the bizarre stuff comes from, I would imagine, right? Because I've seen some super cool, unique stuff there.
Really, the thing that we've done that we've never seen anybody do, which is kind of the most simple thing, was the fishing pole holder.
And now, where did they install that? Did it go like outside on a deck somewhere, or did it go on someone's boat? Do you know?
They ended up hanging it up in the husband's office, and then they put pictures of him fishing with that special fishing pole all around the actual fishing pole holder, like wall decor.
Yeah, so it basically just mounts on the wall, and it's the actual rack is almost the full length of the pole, so it's almost like a piece of wall decor, along with kind of a functional piece of wall decor.
It's so
Go ahead. Another great product that Josh has created is our Karma Bench, which he uses all of the wine or whiskey barrel staves, and he makes a beautiful bench for 2 people to sit on. And that was also a really, really special piece, I believe.
That sounds really awesome. Our earlier guest in the beginning part of the show was talking all about custom wine cellars. And I'm looking at some of the stuff, on Etsy and on your site. And it's neat because these can be custom created. So, like, if you were to come do it in my house, I could see it say, like, Madewell Vineyards or, like, Madewell Reserve or something like that. We made some wine with our team a while back, and that's what we labeled. We labeled it was Madewell Reserve. And I thought, how cool is that?
That is cool.
So what else can you tell us? So, the best place to find you guys, like, just search for Jinju Products and see where you are on the web as far as like your website redesign and Etsy.
Yeah, those are the main two places to find us. And we always try to encourage people to get in touch with us too if they have some ideas or if there's something slightly different that they want.
Yeah, go ahead and give out the best phone number to contact you guys, and then we'll give out the number for Tampa Home Talk and certainly connect you guys.
I usually just have people call me on my mobile at 219-201-0541.
Okay, great. And you can go ahead and reach Joshua and Stephanie at 219-201-0541. And do you ship all over the United States, or are you just here local?
All over.
All right. Well, this is Tampa Home Talk, and we also want to promote a few different properties that we have. We've got quite a few available, so without giving all of them away, hop on over to TampaHomeTalk.com, and you can search for properties there. You can get some really neat seller tips there, and we also post all the information for our guests on our site. And we would love to have you reach out to them, whether you're looking to reach out to Joshua Sands and Stephanie Marr or our earlier guest, Charlie Hale, which builds the custom wine racks. We would love for you to reach out to them and give them some more information. And Lisa's correcting me here because I said wine racks. I meant to say wine cellars. We had a very elaborate conversation on wine cellars. But sometimes I kind of get rambling here. Any closing thoughts for you guys? Is there anything you'd like our listeners to know?
We'll actually be, if anybody's interested in attending, we'll be at the Whiskey Obsessions Festival tonight.
At Michael's on East
in Sarasota.
And then tomorrow, all evening at the
Street
Whiskey Obsessions Street Festival.
Now, do you guys do a whole bunch of different festivals and home shows and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, as many as we are invited to. We used to do farmers markets, but now we're more based on our personal orders. So we do pop-up shops as well and different events, like the Men Whiskey and Watches event in Sarasota. So as many as we can get to, we'd love to join.
You guys do, you say pop-up events? Is that what you said?
Yeah, they're pop-up shops. They're becoming more popular with...
All right, what's a pop-up shop? I don't know. You're going to have to explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay, well, it's like little, small boutique owners. They like to have pop-up shops, so they invite like local artists to come and have a little setup for anyone in the neighborhood to come and join and have some drinks and food and good music and shop around.
Absolutely beautiful, and I think we've had some guests here on Tampa Home Talk that we could connect you to as well. And again, if you'd like to reach myself or any one of my guests, just reach out to us. You can call or text us at 813-377-2775. Again, our off-air number where you can call or text is 813-377-2775. Be safe. If you miss the number, you can call in. Pat George will give it to you anytime, or Mark Charles in the afternoon. But it's 813-377-2775. Thank you so much for joining me today, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.